Hello everyone, I am Crawlers and this is a video on Star Wars Battlefront, a game I do not actually own. A doozy this to make a video on a topic you know nothing about, but then again, that hasn't stopped me before. So, here we go. By the way, if you're wondering what the footage in the background is and where I got it if I don't have the game, it's actually some footage from the demo or beta as EA calls it. I still have a bunch of that left on my hard drive. But the video today I wanted to make here is not about me dropping a steaming warm pile of caca on the game, as it seems to be also popular amongst big YouTubers today. No, I wanted to make a kind of a trivia video about something I noticed quite a while ago, actually, but some people might not actually have, you know, connected up until now. Granted, most of the people that watch Star Wars are gamers and, are going to pick up on this without any help, but some might not. So, without further ado, the weapons used in the original and future movies of Star Wars and their real life counterparts. Now, people are going to pick up on most of these anyway, but some are a bit trickier than others, and as it turns out, most of these weapons, in the movies are based off of, well, all of them are based off of real world guns, and most of them are using German weapons as their base models for the props. Now, creator George Lucas was determined that the universe he envisioned would have a quote, lived in look to it, so many weapons in the Star Wars saga are in fact visually modified or based on real world weapons, as we already knew. I myself am a little bit more cynical of this phrase and think that they used already existing models of prop guns as and modified them for the blasters because first of all, the budget that went into special most of the budget went into special effects, and in those days it wasn't all CGI. It was actually actual puppeteers and uh, model fighters which had to be manufactured and actually physically moved for any scene. So, needless to say, it was hugely expensive and complicated. So, that's one reason I think they might have used existing gun models, to save on budget or creating new props. Another reason I think they may have used German guns as a starting point uh, for most of the weapons for the Empire, because the Empire is sort of the space equivalent of Nazi Germany, and well, the Wehrmacht. Hell, they even called their them stormtroopers, and which is about as subtle as a marching band. So that kind of is an obvious parallel there. Uh, Also, since the studio filming for the first movie, the filming was done in England rather, there aren't very many American arms in the reference models, which actually made the blasters just a little bit less familiar to US movie audiences. Um, Again, playing into the quick and dirty mods of existing props, and instead of creating new ones at the same time for being less than familiar to US audiences. So let's get right to it. Probably the most famous blaster of all, Hans Blaster, or technically the Blastech DL44, is a not so subtly disguised Mauser C96, also known as the broom handle pistol for its wooden handle that looks somewhat comical today and very, very distinctive. And obviously, the iconic blaster is making a comeback as Han's favorite sidearm in The Force Awakens, the next Star Wars movie, which is coming out in a few days. The gun Princess Leia is sporting for a very short time when she's trying to break out from the Empire's hold is actually a neat Russian target shooting pistol from about 1948 called the Margolin targeting pistol. It's got this long barrel made even more alien looking, lending itself to the overall, otherworldly movie feel by the use of this weird muzzle extension that looks like a suppressor, and without a doubt, the coolest gun in the movie is carried by the equally cool and mysterious Boba Fett. This thing looks like it looks absolutely badass, and it's actually based on the Webley and Scott number 1 Mark 1 37 millimeter flare gun modified with a very awesome stock and a reverse scope on top to make it even more badass. But it kind of looks the other way, which I guess defeats the point. Perhaps the most popular standard blaster of every stormtrooper, the E11. Now, this one is made from a British Sterling L2A3 submachine gun, and I mean, there wasn't a lot changed here. The stock was folded, the sight was added, and a much shorter magazine was used. In fact, if you look closely at some of the scenes where it was used, you can actually kind of see the blank shell casings flying out of the gun of the in the movie. As they added the laser blasts in post editing, and they fired blanks during the actual filming. Interestingly, the Rebels Blastac DH-17 is also based on the Sterling submachine gun, and you can tell, by the distinctive handle and the very distinctive front sights, the iron sights in the front. And here's a not very obvious weapon. These stormtroopers on Tatooine are actually equipped, with the RT-97C heavy blaster rifle. Now, this thing actually didn't have an official name until the release of the Star Wars Blueprints, the Ultimate Collection in 2008, and it is actually based on the MG-15 machine gun. And here's another interesting one. The character Ori Marco, the also aptly known as Pruneface, actually has an unmodified, if you can believe that, Car 98K rifle, which again should be familiar to anyone who's ever played the World War II game or watched the movie. That rifle was, pretty much synonymous with the German army. There's also a couple of fun weapon props in the prequel trilogy, and although I, as many of you, I'm sure, would like to pretend that these movies don't exist and continue calling the original movies episodes 1, 2, and 3 respectively, I will still mention these guns real quick here, and then we can go on to pretending, as I will never stop calling these episodes 1, 2, and 3, the original ones, because they did not make any new ones, and you cannot tell me any different. Alright, so in the Phantom Menace on Naboo, the Naboo troops rather used the Theed Arms Security S5 heavy blaster pistol, which was based on the Feinberg-Bau C55 air gun. A real interesting model of this, and it looks really cool, so it kind of lends itself to that, otherworldly feel that Star Wars has overall. Also on Naboo, the troops were equipped with another pistol, this one based on the Boulder LPM-1 air gun, of course with some trimmings added like a scope and some underbarrel attachments, and just to make it a bit cooler. Again on Naboo, a blaster that you can hardly catch on screen. This one is called the Corellian Arms CR2 heavy blaster pistol, and it appears to be based on the no less alien looking Calico M950A. Now, anyone who's ever played Call of Duty or something like that has seen this gun before, but in real life it is just hilarious, ridiculous, and impractical. And thank fuck it never actually went into production, into mass production as a weapon, because as a pistol it's huge and heavy with a gigantic and heavy magazine on the top of it, and as an SMG there's just literally billions of better ones out there that are easier to handle and lighter and so on, and more accurate. And with that huge magazine on top of it, it's pretty much impossible to aim anyway. So it's not a not a very good weapon overall. Here's an interesting one. The clone troopers that were everywhere in the aptly named Attack of the Clones? Well, they all came equipped with a computer generated DC-15A blaster rifle. Now, the thing is, the guns were all just as the stormtroopers were, um, the clone troopers, rather, I should say, were computer generated. So there were no real props here that were manufactured. So the guns were all fake. But these were actually based again on the German MG34 machine gun. Well, actually, the back of them were based on the MG34, uh, which is kind of squashed together with the front, which is based again on the Sterling L2A3 submachine gun, which they actually turned upside down in the front to kind of make us forget with that we already saw this gun 2 or 3 times before in the movie as a basis for other blasters. So that's kind of neat, I thought. Also, a very similar blaster, the Blastec DC-15S carbine, was equipped by many of the officers in the same movie. This one, a carbine version of the aforementioned DC-15A. Now, in The Force Awakens, the First Order stormtroopers can be seen, though not well in this photo, carrying the Sonblast F-11D blaster rifles. These guns appear to be loosely based on the Sterling SMG, but have quite a few modifications, like an AR-style scope, stock, and the folding foregrip, not a scope. Another very interesting blaster from The Force Awakens, the future movie, is the Sonblast SE-44C blaster pistol. Now, this thing is really, really cool. The blaster in the movie, it looks cool and all, and it's kind of interesting. It sort of looks like an MP7 or something like that, or a Russian SR2, but it doesn't look all that exciting, but it pales in comparison to the real world counterpart on which it is based. The thing is based on an actual Glock pistol, and you might be saying, well, what is so exciting about that? That we've only seen these things like a billion times in the movies before. Well, not entirely like this. The Glock pistol is actually fitted inside an FAB Defense KPOS carbine conversion kit, and for the basically turning it into a carbine. And for the movie, they've removed the stock on the conversion kit, but in real life, this is basically a kit that, well, as I said, turns the entire pistol into a carbine. There's a foregrip on this thing, a sight, a stock, an AR-style charging handle, and so on. And I'm not entirely sure why you'd want to convert a pistol to a carbine. Instead of buying something like a Vector SMG or something like that. But maybe the legality of it. I'm just talking out of my ass right now. If anyone wants to enlighten me, please leave a comment below. There's also the Iris Ryloth Defense Tech Glee 44 blaster pistol, and in the movie, which seems to be based on the 6-hour P226 pistol, but I haven't found any shots of it in the movie yet, so I guess we have to wait for it till it comes out and to speculate on that one in the meantime. So instead, here's an action figure of Poe Dameron, the resistance pilot that has that very blaster. Also, the Resistance in The Force Awakens is armed with a Blastech EL-16 blaster, which appears to be based on the G-36C, so I suppose nothing really exciting there. Although it looks kind of cool still that they included such a famous weapon, again, such a famous German weapon in the movie as a base model. The rebel scum is not to be outdone, however. On Hoth, they can be seen carrying a blaster called the Blastech 8295, which actually has a very familiar shape for anyone who has ever seen a movie or played a game in a World War II setting. I am, of course, talking about the STG 44, another example of excellent German design from the early 40s, widely considered to be the grandfather of modern assault rifles. This is one of those weapons that pretty much changed history. Although not the first fully automatic assault rifle style weapon, that distinction going to the Russian Fedorov assault rifle, designed by Vladimir Grigorievich Fedorov in 1915. Russians apparently recognized early on and before most other nations the advantages of automatic fire over bolt action or semi-auto rifles. And interestingly enough, the blasters carried by the rebels on Endor looked nearly identical to the Blastech A295, which were actually the Blastech A280. There's a very subtle difference as the latter ones were actually modeled on the M16s and not the STG-44s. When you look closely at the prop, you can actually tell them apart because the M16 prop had an angled magazine well, whereas the STG lookalike had a straight one, and also the trigger guard is a little bit different. Here's an interesting one that most people don't know about. The stormtroopers on Tatooine were outfitted with the T-21 light repeating blaster. Now, it looked quite menacing and unlike anything else in the movie, but it's actually another British gun. This one is a prop version of the Lewis machine gun from the World War I era, where all they did was pretty much remove the characteristic horizontal magazine on top of the gun and replaced it with a grab handle, making it, no doubt like a bullet hose, which could be somewhat comically impossible to aim in any sort of real life situation. Another favorite of the stormtroopers is the Blastech DOT-19 heavy blaster rifle, which is a weapon in real life that's pretty much synonymous with evil. A machine gun that needs no introduction, the MG-34. This thing is as much a part of the Empire as it was the Wehrmacht, and it's super recognizable, and so they didn't really try to even change it any for the movies, though the stormtroopers carried them without the attached drum magazine. Makes sense, I guess, since it's a blaster and doesn't feed on the 792mm Mauser ammo. A blaster from the movie, which is on screen very little, is the SE-14C, which is wielded by Ponda Baba, the alien in the Mos Eisley Cantina, who has the unfortunate distinction of picking on Luke and Obi-Wan at the bar. Big mistake, of course, as we remember. But the interesting thing is this blaster started life as a Swiss Rexim Faber Mk5 submachine gun. Now, for the movie, this submachine gun lost its stock, its magazine, and most of the barrel, but you can sort of recognize it still because it is very distinct looking. And interestingly, only about 5,000 of these submachine guns were ever made by the Swiss before Rexim went bankrupt. So It's just a little piece of history there. Also, in the movie, it's kind of hard to see, but the Jawas are also sporting blasters of their own. Unfortunately, all the shots with these little guys are quite fast and darkened in the shadows when they have the blasters up. But these are really cool looking and for once actually modified from their original real world counterparts. These are actually based on the British Lee-Enfield number 1 Mark III bolt action rifle without the scope obviously and shortened uh, pretty dramatically with a huge cannon on the front, much like a suppressor but actually quite a bit bigger. And surprisingly, this is actually a grenade launcher cup from real life and not a movie prop. Now, well, I guess it is a movie prop, but it actually existed in the real world. During the days of World War One, you see that all sides were coming up with weird ideas for lobbing projectiles at each other's trenches. I mean, the idea itself obviously endured since we have the HNK 320 now, and the Garand had a grenade launcher ability, and so did many other rifles. The British even had a weird torpedo like explosive melon thing, which arguably killed more British than it did Germans. It was a weird time. And speaking of Germans and such, lightsabers. Now, Luke and Leia's lightsabers were made from all camera flash guns back when a lot of battery power was required for a camera to go flash. And Obi-Wan's lightsaber was actually made from a Rolls-Royce Derwent Mark 8 Mark 9 jet engine balance pipe. Can you believe this? I mean, it gets even better. Wait for it. The inserts for the glowing parts of the lightsabers were made from old German tank antennas because why not? And here is a bonus for you guys. Remember the ship that made the castle run in 12 parsecs? Well, the fact that the parsec is actually a unit of distance and not time notwithstanding, the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon is actually the original cockpit of the B-29 Super Fortress bomber, again from World War II. So thanks for watching. Please rate and share this video as it helps my channel grow. Check out my other videos at the end of this one. And remember, in Soviet Russia, YouTube subscribes you.